Welcome to Recovery Demystified, a show where we explore our relationship to substances from a radical, non-religious, and empowering lens. Our sobriety is not a purity contract. It is an invitation to become curious about ourselves and find our own unique paths to growth and healing. If you've been questioning the role of alcohol or drugs in your life and haven't found the resources that you need, you're in the right place. Let's get started. Hello, my friends. Welcome back to Recovery Demystified. I'm so happy to have y'all here today. My name is Early, and for this episode, I have another first. This is the first time I recorded an interview out in the wild. I went to Old Friends Music Festival to meet a friend of a friend named Danny, and there's a couple of different sound quality things going on with this since we were just in a cabin in the woods at a music festival. And one thing is that we were just recording into my phone, and I thought it was going to sound really bad, but it actually sounds kind of fine. But if it sounds different than normal, that's why. And also later in the conversation, they start to do the sound check. And I was kind of afraid that it was going to make it sound terrible, but it actually is really heartwarming and sort of makes it sound dynamic and just more, I don't know how to explain it, but it's beautiful. And I kind of enjoyed in the editing process, hearing the sound in the background, the music. It's really quite nice. So yeah, I don't know. Maybe I'll be out there recording more in the wild. Who knows? Leaving the safety of my podcast booth. Danny, in his story, recovers from multiple drug addiction with use of plant medicine Ibogaine, which I'd heard of Ibogaine before and I was moderately familiar with it, but I did just a tiny bit of research to figure out more about it, and it comes from a plant that is native to Central and West Africa. And it has ancient roots in spiritual traditions with groups such as the Bwiti tribe. And it wasn't traditionally used for addiction over there. It was just used for rites of passage, connection to the ancestors, and other deep spiritual work. And I do think it's important to note that this plant is really over harvested because Ibogaine is gaining a lot of interest in the Western world, especially as we hear more stories of people having successful addiction recovery with use of this plant medicine. And it's just important, as you happen to be white folks living in the Western world, to have an awareness that people's spiritual traditions and access to their own native plant medicines is affected when something is over harvested and sold overseas. And also, interestingly, in my research, I learned that recently, a few months ago, scientists have synthesized Ibogaine. So there's now a synthetic form of it, which to me is really promising because it means that people can still have access to this type of medicine without it being over harvested and mailed overseas and reducing the native population's access to their spiritual medicine. So there's that to think about. And all that being said, it was really special to have this conversation with Danny, and it really moved something in my heart, and I'm just so deeply grateful for everyone who's trusted me with their story. This is people's entire lives. It's their pain and it's their joy and it's their vulnerability and their secrets. And to anyone who's ever been on this podcast, thank you for trusting me. It's completely, truly such a deep honor for me to be able to tell these stories and hear about people's experience and share it with the world. So thank you to everyone who's given me a chance to do that. And thank you to all the people of the future who are going to give me a chance to do that. And as always, if you are thinking about coming on this podcast, I'm always looking for more people to do that. So go ahead and send me an email, info@recoverydemystified.com. If you want to tell your story, I would love to hear it and I'd love to share it with the world. It would be an honor. And a couple of days before I was editing this podcast, Danny reached out to me and sent me a couple of just home recorded tracks of the new music that he's been making. So he started as a musician in early adulthood, and then his addiction got so bad that he completely stopped playing music altogether. And after use of plant medicine Ibogaine, his musical creativity just came flooding back to him, which I find so touching and so beautiful. And I was really curious to listen to the new music. So I like went on the internet and I was like, Googling him like Danny Malone or whatever. And all I could find was like ancient music from like 15 years ago, which was really beautiful. I am a sucker for sad boy music. I love sad boy music, but I couldn't find anything that was like recent at all. So I reached out and he was like, oh yeah, none of it's recorded yet. And then a couple of days ago, he sent me a couple of these tracks and he said that I could include a clip at the end. So definitely listen to this one all the way through to hear his brand new creativity that's coming out. It's, man, watching people go from fucking living hell to healing and creative and vibrant and excited. The magic of addiction recovery is unmatched by any other experience in life. And if you're struggling today, just know that this is your future and your survival is really important. And the light that you're going to bring to the world in your recovery, I'm so excited to see it. So yeah, if you're struggling today, you can do this. And without further ado, here's my interview with Danny. All right. How are you doing today, Danny?
I'm doing good.
Will you start by introducing yourself to the audience? Let them know your pronouns and a little bit about yourself.
My name is Danny Malone. I'm a songwriter from Austin, Texas. I guess I'd call myself that. Pronouns are he, him, and what else did you say?
Just a little bit about yourself. Songwriter from Austin, Texas. Sounds good. Yeah, so we're here at Old Friends Reunion recording out in the wild. It's my first time doing this, so pushing me a little bit outside of my comfort zone. Probably pushing you a little bit outside of your comfort zone.
It's cool.
Yeah.
It's cool. Yeah. No, it's good. It's fun to be nervous.
Yes. Appropriately nervous and not in a panic, hopefully.
Uh-huh.
All right. So we're here to talk about your story with addiction and recovery. So I'm curious what it was like for you to be a little kid and then some of your first encounters with substances, then when it got bad and how you got into recovery. So start wherever you'd like.
Okay. So my life as a kid, let's see, I'm the youngest of 6, and my dad was a lawyer. My mom had a few different kinds of jobs, but mostly she owned some clothing stores, and it was sort of a chaotic, I guess, upbringing with a lot of kids of vastly different ages. My oldest sister is 18 years older than me, and my closest sibling is 5 years older than me. And
how many was there altogether?
6 total.
6 total.
Yeah.
You said it was chaotic. What made it chaotic? Other than just the volume of
It's just the volume. Yeah, volume. It was like I felt like I was raised by my siblings instead of my parents, you know.
Yeah. So not like a ton of personalized attention from the parents?
Yeah, they were working a lot, doing their best and showing love in their own way, but yeah, I was, a super sensitive child, and I just remember crying every day about something, constantly crying. Yeah. That's what my childhood was like, as I remember it, yeah.
Yeah. Reflecting on it, do you know why that would be? Like,
it was, crying was my only defense against my siblings that were older than me, or, being so sensitive. I was, roughhousing was definitely too much for me. I would get hurt, my feelings hurt constantly. I would feel whatever everyone else was feeling. I was always trying to, I don't know, I was empathic as a child, I suppose, and there was different kinds of traumas going on as a child. Also, I was abused in certain ways, some physical abuse, some I was molested by a few different people.
Damn. That's super heavy. I'm really sorry to hear that.
It's part of the story, part of my story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you feel like the abuse sort of informed the emotional, the sensitivity, the crying and everything like that?
I remember I sort of remember a point in my life. I don't know if I remember before it happened because I was super young, but I sort of do. Being more just okay with myself, or just open, being a child and like, okay expressing myself. And then I remember a certain point in my childhood when that switched and I've suddenly never felt safe expressing myself anymore, or I felt like I had done something wrong in my molestation encounters, and so I feeling like I was a bad seed or something made me recoil into myself and not feel safe to express, and the only way it could come out is through crying, I think. And so crying was my way of it was my outlet of some sort, because I couldn't express exactly what was going on. It took me a long time to figure out what was going on.
Yeah,
decades.
Totally, that makes sense. And I feel like what I've heard from like childhood trauma is that we at that age like see our caregivers as people who can do no wrong, basically, because they're responsible for keeping us alive in like every sense. So when we get abused or when we become unsafe around people that are supposed to be taking care of us, the child brain automatically thinks, oh, there must be something wrong with me. So that's super common, and I'm really sorry you had to go through all of that. Was there addiction in your family at all?
Let's see, not in my immediate family, but I know my dad's brother died of alcoholism-related disease at a young age, younger than I am currently. And I know, so on my dad's side, yes, because my dad's father also was alcoholic severely and had schizophrenic, was hospitalized for most of his adult life with schizophrenia.
Did you see any of that growing up, or did you learn about that as an adult?
I learned about it later. I remember hearing some about it as a kid, but I never met my dad's dad or his brother.
So you never saw any of it firsthand?
I never saw any of it, no.
Yeah.
But I heard that I had heard like some hearsay in the family that like to watch out for alcohol, or that like there was some issues with that in the family.
Yeah.
And let's see, at one point my mom never drank or anything, but at one point my dad quit drinking. Basically my mom wanted him to quit drinking, and he did quit drinking at some point. So I don't know if he ever considered himself an alcoholic, but I think it probably was somewhere in there. Yeah,
typically if someone else is telling you, you gotta quit drinking, it's not all going super great anymore.
Yeah, he quit at a young enough age for me that I never was too aware of it too much.
Yeah. What was your first encounters as a young person with alcohol or other substances? When did you first see it?
I saw my siblings drinking and stuff, and my brother next in line to me, my closest in age, was like a teenager partying and stuff, and I knew, drinking, and I was always way ahead of the curve for people my age. So I did LSD when I was 11 years old.
Oh my gosh. Was that the first mind-altering substance you tried?
The first one before alcohol or cigarettes or anything. I did LSD.
What's the story with that? That is quite unusual.
Let's see. So what happened? I was one day, a 12-year-old kid, the kid in the grade above me, asked me if I wanted to come to his birthday party. We were going to all do acid, and I had heard that my brother had done acid sometime recently, but he was a teenager. Mm-hmm. And I was like, hell yeah, I want to do that. And my mom dropped me off over at their house, and we did acid that night. And I remember in my 11-year-old brain it not being just feeling really goofy and stuff, but it was like the movie Kids, mm-hmm. It was a chaotic night of memories. I remember at one point someone showed me a gun, his older brother had a gun in his room, and we were on acid, studying a gun for the first time.
Wow.
And it was a crazy night.
Yeah.
And I was way too young to be. That was super scary situation. I do not suggest that, and I wonder how that altered the course of my life.
Oh my goodness gracious. Yeah, that's definitely the first time I've heard that. Were you scared when it was happening, or were you having fun when it was happening? Do you remember?
I just remember being so happy that I was included in a group of friends hanging out, and I thought they were cool because they skateboarded, and I was a really chunky kid and wanted to be cool, and also was happy to have my mind altered at any point. So that started early, I guess, for me.
Yeah, totally. We're gonna let a dog in here for a second, y'all. We're in a cabin. All right. Hey, thank you. Thank you. Well, starting things with acid at the age of 11 is swinging with a heavy bat. What happened after that? I mean, also, I did want to note that that's really common, that desire for like social inclusion and finding it in any way as a young person, and finding it through substances with other people is so common. And I definitely experienced that too. But yeah, what happened after that?
Let's see. I remember I had literally right after that is the morning. I remember my mom came and picked me up and took me to a baseball game. I had like a kid. I was like still a kid, playing baseball, and I thought that was sort of a funny juxtaposition. But I went to that game and did not play well.
Can imagine.
And so what happened after that? I think that sort of changed the course of my life in the sense of I stopped caring about school or any sort of behaving in any sort of conforming or falling into line kind of way. Like, I became more and more rebellious for sure after that, and started playing guitar like really quickly after that. So there is some truth to be had in the connection between psychedelics and music.
That's super funny. Yeah, as time went on, did you seek out more substances as a young person? I
remember I didn't seek it out immediately after that. I didn't even tell anybody. I didn't tell anybody for years that I did. I told a friend 3 years later or 4 years later that I had done that, and they were like, no way.
Wow. No one was like, hey man, you've changed a bit. Did something happen?
No. Oh. I know. Everyone thought I was way cooler now that I was being a rebel and getting kicked out of school. Oh, that very quickly after that trip, I got kicked out of the private school that I was going to in Dallas.
What happened there?
I just quit caring about school completely and stopped doing any work and started skipping class, even it was unheard of as a fifth grader or whatever I was.
Wow.
There was nowhere to even go. I don't even know where I hid to skip class. I think I went to the library and doodled.
Interesting. So
I was trying to get kicked out of school.
Yeah. Did your parents put you back in another school, or did you just...
So then I went to public school in Dallas after that, and I was happier there for a little bit, but I didn't even seek out. I didn't even smoke a cigarette until 2 years later, until I was 13, and then I tried weed around then, and then I started seeking out weed around 13, yeah, and pretty quickly got just smoking weed a lot and always sneaking away. And my parents were always staunchly against any sort of behavior like that, and I eventually was skipping every class possible and smoking as much weed as possible, and getting kicked out of public school, and then getting sent to special schools where 20 students who have all been kicked out of every school in Dallas. It was the last school for us.
The school for the bad kids.
And then eventually I got kicked out of that one and got sent to a boarding school, reform place in Georgia for 3 years almost.
What was that like?
It was like jail, basically. It was like a low security incarceration, basically.
Wow.
Yeah.
Were you still smoking pot then, or was it kind of impossible, or where's your head at?
I was definitely impossible at that school. Actually, some people were sneaking it in, but they would search you when, like you were going to jail, nude searches and shakedowns in the rooms all the time. And the rules were incredibly strict, and it was, they called it a therapeutic boarding school. It was tons of therapy hours, everyday hours of therapy, and just no leeway whatsoever to do anything on this very small campus in the mountains in Georgia.
Do you remember what it felt like to be a kid and be in a place like that?
It was really rough. So I was taken there when I was 16 I was kidnapped in the night my parents hired these goons, basically, these strong men to come in and wake me up in the middle of the night and put me on a plane and fly with me to Georgia to this school
Was it explained to
Nothing.
you?
No, it was not explained.
I can imagine that's incredibly scary.
It was scary.
Yeah.
I didn't know what was going on. Yeah.
Wow.
That was a scary way to. And then I get there and I'm like, what is going on? Somebody explained, and then I am told once I'm there that I'm going to be there for 2.5 years. Yeah.
Holy moly. Damn, that's a lot to go through as a kid. How did you survive that?
I remember it just being rough, super rough at first, and then I like ran away. I like snuck out, and they had like every police officer in Georgia looking for me at one point.
Oh my gosh.
For like one night, but then I had walked down this, like, I had snuck out after dinner one night and walked for miles and miles to like the first house that I saw, and I used the phone to call my parents, and they convinced me to go back to the school to be safe that night, and I did, and then I ended up just having to stay there after that. And I didn't run away again because they were watching me like a hawk. And what was it like? It was really difficult, but then after a while, I don't know, I played basketball. I got really good at basketball at that place. Mm-hmm. I found a way. You find a way to survive, you know? Totally.
And you said there's like a lot of therapy. Was it helpful therapy at all?
I think in a way it was. I think actually in a way it was. It was for a lot of students it wasn't. It was just traumatizing, but I think I did actually at some point submit and try to figure out a way to make it useful for me, and I think it sort of was. And also my parents, leading up to this, I was like suicidally depressed as a kid, you know, like always. This is why I was seeking drugs, and so my parents had no idea what to do, you know. They were like, thought it was life or death.
Yeah.
So I don't hold it against them. It's also just part of my story and part of who I am today, and I like who I am today. And
so, do you get released the day you turn 18, or how did you get out of there?
I graduated there. I got a diploma, so I was 19 when I don't even know if this is true, but since I had been there, I had to stay. I could have probably left legally when I was 18, mm-hmm. but I had nowhere to go, and I would have just been homeless in Georgia.
Yeah.
And so I stayed until I was 19, and then after that I went to college. I applied to college. I got like a high school diploma from that place and applied to college and went to college for a few years and moved to Austin and started pursuing music, and eventually dropped out of college and just did music.
What was your relationship with substances when you got out of that place in Georgia?
Okay, so I was totally sober and not smoking weed or not doing anything when I got out of that place. I was sober for a few years there, like not even drinking, or I was not aware that I was an addict at this point, or like had the tendency to go overboard. I just thought I was not thinking that was who I was.
Yeah, I mean, were you like, I'm sober on purpose, or did it just sort of happen?
It would just sort of happen that way. I mean, I came out and I was so happy to be out of that place that I was just okay being sober, and I was, yeah.
So just sort of not looking for an escape at that time?
I wasn't, yeah. I started writing songs. That was like my escape. I was like writing a lot of music, figuring out how to write songs and record songs, and didn't need to get fucked up to do it.
Totally. What happened? What was the juncture where you started like dabbling in substances as an adult?
What did happen? At one point I think it was I went through a breakup like in my mid-20s or young 20s that was like toxic, and the relationship was just a rough breakup. And I remember suddenly drugs becoming euphoric like they had never been before. I remember at one time I broke my wrist when I was like 21, and they prescribed me pills, mm-hmm. Or whatever, hydros or something, and I didn't even finish the bottle. Like they didn't provide that hit or whatever.
Yeah.
And then I went through this emotional turmoil of this breakup a few years later, and I remember a friend gave me hydros, mm-hmm. and I took them, and it was like I heard choirs singing, and suddenly it worked.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's like emotional pain and physical pain aren't that dissimilar from each other. You know what I mean?
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
So, after you went through that breakup and you had those first few pain pills, what happened after that?
I was also started taking Adderalls, like just a little bit at first, and loving Adderall and like getting work done, and then needing more of it. And then occasionally taking opiates with it. And from here on out, the story will start to become a blur in a way, because the next 15 years of my life became just lost in a mess of drug abuse. But yeah, it started with Adderalls and pain pills and occasionally a Xanax or something, and until I was taking tons of Adderall, crazy amounts of Adderall, and addicted to opiate pills, and taking benzo every night to sleep. And that just never stopped. I mean, I would go through phases that I would go for a while and then think I needed to quit, and I would kick every once in a while and convince myself that I was like had it under control because I could kick it every once in a while.
Yeah, if I can stop for a month, I don't have a problem.
Right.
Yeah. What happened to make you think that you wanted to kick?
It would be like, it was getting unaffordable. I would be like, this is crazy. I'm spending too much. I just need to quit. Or I'd have a tour coming up or something, and I'd be like, well, I can't like get enough to go through the whole tour, so I would kick to go on that tour and use the tour to additionally kick and be clear of it. So usually it was like the touring would save my life in between, and then I'd come home and get right back on.
Was there a part of you that was like, these pills aren't doing it for me, or I'm hurting myself, or was there like negative repercussions, or was it just purely like, I don't have enough pills to go on tour, so it's logistical?
It would be logistical mostly, but then occasionally I'd get this like dread, overwhelmed feeling of like, oh wait, I'm like addicted to multiple substances right now. Maybe I should consider what's going on. But then when I'd be able to kick it, then I convinced myself that I was like stronger than this substance. I wasn't no ordinary addict. It's ridiculous.
It's funny because I think every one of us has that same thought or phase or whatever.
But I mean, there were social repercussions. I knew I was acting weird, and fucking high out of my mind in situations. I was behaving crazily. I was probably scaring my family at this point. Like I don't know what, but I can't. It's sort of a blur. But there weren't enough social repercussions for me to stop. I was like, it was still serving me for quite a while. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it worked. The drugs, that's the thing about them, is they for sure provide a function at first for a while.
Yeah, will you describe for you what that function was?
I was always trying to find the flow state of being an artist, I guess. I was like always wanting to be right in the zone where something magical could happen. I had convinced myself that that's why I was using it, I guess. And yeah, as it would treat my anxiety, it would allow me to have a life outside of my house at all. Like, 'cause without them, I was very reclusive and sort of unable to be an extrovert at all, have any extroverted quality. And I felt that if I wanted any extroverted quality, I would need some substance to help me perform that.
Totally. And can I ask if you're neurodivergent?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. I feel like it's a lot of the people I talk to, and then a very common theme is like, then, drugs and alcohol help me get out there and be social and get accepted or whatever. But then like a lot of times in recovery, we're like, oh, I was kind of like forcing myself to be uncomfortable when I didn't really need to be. Yeah, it's kind of a common struggle for the neurodivergent people that find addictions. Whenever you were on tour and had kicked, did you have like drug-seeking thoughts, or were you just like, was it just off the table?
I would definitely have had drug-seeking thoughts. I mean, and it didn't work on every tour. I mean, I remember going on a tour one time through Canada, and I like ran out of pills, but found out if I like went to the doctor in Canada or to a hospital in Canada, they could write me a new prescription or something. Maybe I shouldn't be saying this as any sort of give people excuse, but I mean, I remember making, like, the rest of the people on that tour had no idea where I went for like 2 days as I went trying to score more drugs, and they were freaking out and calling jails and hospitals, and they didn't find me. And then I came back high and ready to go, and like, what are y'all doing? Let's get packed up and hit the road.
Totally.
I was being an asshole. That's what I was being.
Yeah, but I mean, at that point, your brain thinks you need the drugs to survive, and you're gonna do anything to get them. You know what I mean?
For sure.
Yeah.
They didn't want to see me not on them.
Okay, so as time went on, and sometimes when you're home, you're on a bunch of drugs, and then sometimes you're gone and you're on tour and you're not. How long did it go on like that for, and when did things start to change?
It went like that from like 25 to like 30, like able to off and on sometimes and convince myself of some normalcy, but around 30, that's when I started using needles and heroin and switched from pills to harder stuff. Yeah. I mean, it's the same stuff, but
stronger delivery method.
Yeah.
More stigmatized.
Yeah.
What was the change there? Did you like meet someone that was using drugs in that way, or how did you make that leap?
So the switch from like opiate pills from oxys, it was financial. It was too expensive to continue taking the oxycontins, and so I switched to a more affordable heroin.
Isn't that crazy?
Crazy, yeah. And it just was totally natural switch. It was like no big deal whatsoever to me at the moment, and never in my life did I think I would be on heroin like earlier in my life, of course.
Yeah.
It's kind of just crazy how normal and seamless the switch happens at some point where give a fuck button got pressed.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, again, it's that survival. It's that part of our brain that thinks we need the drugs to survive. It's going to make sense of anything, you know?
Uh-huh.
Was it like a person in your life that was like, heroin's cheaper, let me show you how to do this, or how did it cross your mind?
Yeah, maybe a friend of mine had it, and I like smoked it with him one time. They called it opium when he bought it, and so we were like, okay, let's try opium. It was not. It was heroin for sure.
Yeah.
And that sort of maybe opened a doorway, and then I was smoking it, and I was like, what am I smoking it for? Let's just do it like the movies. And so I just went all the way in on it. I just went all the way in. Yeah.
Yeah. Since IV drug use is like so deeply stigmatized, do you remember having a different view of yourself at that time? Or was it like you said, it was just a don't give a fuck button?
I had a different view of myself, but I kept it secret like for a long time, I think. I don't know what people thought. I was thinking I was secret, but I think I did actually hide it pretty well for a while. But yeah, I mean, yeah, I had felt like I switched to the dark side, like for sure. I was like in the netherworld of this earth, and for some reason on the pills I had some sort of feeling that it wasn't like that.
Yeah. It's like, these came from a doctor and a pharmacy, and so it's like, I don't know why people put it like morally in a completely different category when it's like, it's all the same drug.
It's the same, for sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
How did it go when you started using IV drugs?
Took it real serious, but I got strung out. Yeah. I was still able to play shows and stuff and have sort of a public life to some degree. And then still occasionally I would be able to kick it and somehow convince myself that I was still in control, which is psycho. Occasionally I could do that and not feel like I was crazy strung out, but I was totally strung out. But I mean, in my mind, if I could find a vein, I wasn't strung out, you know, like I was still had it together. I only started feeling strung out when I no longer had a vein in my whole body that I could hit. And I smile as I say that, but this is super dark thing to say.
Yeah, I mean, it's just interesting to like reflect back on the past logic of the addicted brain and be like, man, I fucking thought that. I believed that about myself, you know?
Yeah.
So, and all we can do about it is smile now, because it ain't that way anymore.
It ain't.
How long did it go on like that for? And then when
So
when did you start? I mean, I guess you would kick every once in a while to prove it to yourself that you could, but when did you kind of get into like recovery?
Well, so around 30, so I'm 42 now. I just turned 42. Around 30, I was switching to IV, and then I started switching steps. It's just sometimes I would use meth to quit the heroin and just stick to the meth for a long time, and then I was IVing meth, and good Lord, it went like that back and forth, and then at the same time for another 8 years. Like, basically, yeah, of off and on periods. But, well, once I started the meth, I never stopped. So, until I was about 38, yeah.
And did you feel like, at that time, were you like, something is wrong and I need to stop?
Oh, yeah.
You know? Yeah.
I was aware something was wrong, for sure.
Yeah.
Because I was like, oh, shit. I mean, I was doing crazy. I was being crazy. Acting crazy. Doing crazy things. I was stealing money. I was just not a good guy for a few years there.
Yeah. Did anyone ever bring it up to you?
Yeah, for sure. So, I mean, I found a way to slowly but surely remove everyone from my life that had any sort of concern about me.
Yeah.
You know, so yeah, at some point there was somebody said something to me, yeah, but they were quickly, evicted from my life. Yeah.
So what happened that ended up making you want to quit and get into recovery?
There was at one point my family sort of came down on me and was like, yeah, almost like an intervention, but not in a room together, but just I knew that everyone was talking, and they were like, something's gonna happen, we gotta stop this or something. And I remember my mom called me and was like, what, are you on drugs? And I remember it was such a blur at that point. I just knew that the jig was up at one point, and that I was like, could not continue. I had no more access to money. I wasn't going to be able to continue the life, and it was get sober now or something or die, I guess. And
were you no longer playing shows or anything?
Yeah, I had quit playing shows by the end, for sure.
Yeah.
For the last few years of it, I just went all in on drugs and quit playing music, for sure.
Were you able to have a job at all, or was it all just kind of like stealing and stuff to get drug money?
It was like, I was stealing and flipping stuff, or selling music equipment, or basically I sold everything I had for drugs. I had a girlfriend who we were getting high together, and I wanted her to survive, was one reason. I didn't care if I died, but I didn't want to bring someone down with me. And so I decided that was sort of the final straw, was I was seeing that she could die. Like, what am I doing? What's going on? We have to get help. So it was a convergence of a few things. It was like it couldn't continue, but also it struck me finally in a moment of clarity, probably, that like this was super serious and something needed to change. And that's when I decided the method that I wanted to get sober was a psychedelic called Ibogaine. I don't know if you've heard of it. Mm-hmm. And so that was 4 years ago. I did Ibogaine. How
did you find out about it?
From a friend who had done it, but also has since passed away. A few months before she passed, she led me to Ibogaine, or told me about Ibogaine, and I was super grateful about that. And so I started researching it, and I asked my brother to help me find a place to go do it. And so that was the path. 4 years ago, I did the Ibogaine to quit heroin, meth, benzos, and psych meds all at the same time.
Wow. So were you like pretty strung out up until like the Ibogaine ceremony?
Yeah.
Or did you have to quit before that? I
had to quit the psych meds. So I somehow throughout this whole process was also taking a mood stabilizer, Lamictal, like somehow keeping it normal. Yeah, to me, that's kind of funny. Like,
because they're like, oh, you're You must be bipolar. Did you get a bipolar diagnosis somewhere?
At some point, probably something.
Yeah, this is also like a really common theme with people I talk to, and it happened to me as well, where it's like, you're all fucked up, you're in your addiction, you're super strung out, and you're acting fucking crazy.
Yeah.
And then you see a mental health care provider, and they're like, well, they're just checking boxes in the bipolar diagnosis, and they're like, you do meet all the criteria, and it's like, well, if I wasn't all strung out or drinking this much or doing whatever, I wouldn't meet any of those criteria. Yeah, and then they medicate you while you're still on drugs or while you're still drinking. And yeah, very common
and
story.
because they had no idea. Yeah, I was for sure keeping from them some vital information.
Yes,
but I was taking this. I had to quit this. I had to quit that, and I had to quit meth before for like a few days before the Ibogaine. But the heroin, or it was actually fentanyl, they said keep doing that up until then they switched me to a shorter acting. They switched me to Oxycontin for 2 days, and then did the Ibogaine just a few days later. I did a really quick version. A lot of times they would switch you for a few weeks at some places, but I kind of did it in a just balls to the wall kind of
Wow, so
way.
In the end you were shooting up fentanyl.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
For sure. I don't know. I thought it was heroin, but then at some point it switched to just a white powder, which was just fentanyl for sure. Yeah.
So fentanyl to Oxycontin for 2 days, and then the Ibogaine ceremony, was it just like one experience, one night? Like, what was that like?
So it was at an Airbnb, just with a facilitator. I went there, and we just got a room. Yeah, so I just went and got an Airbnb with a facilitator and stayed there for, it's sort of a blur because it was still really difficult. I did the Ibogaine on the day 3, and then I think I was there for another 10 days or something, just in that Airbnb going through the withdrawals. So the Ibogaine experience is like 2 to 3 day experience. It's like you trip for the first 8 hours of it. The next like 36 hours you just lay in a bed, just sort of, your body is still like filled with the Ibogaine medicine, and you are sort of paralyzed. It's really hard to move. You don't want to move. You can't move. And especially in that situation, it quelled the withdrawals by a significant amount. Like, I can't imagine what going through just the withdrawals without the Ibogaine. I wouldn't have been possible. I would have jumped out a window, I think.
Yeah.
But it quelled them enough, and also paralyzed my body to not be able to do anything for a long period of time there, for 2 days basically. Wow. And
was it scary, or was it comforting, or was it something else?
The imagery that I saw was, that first time it was scary and like confusing and just dreamlike, it was, I don't know how to describe the first experience. It was I still remember the imagery of it, but it sort of started very chaotic, and it's poetic, and I'll explain what happened. The imagery I saw was, for the first like hour of the trip, or 2 hours, it felt like, was this repeating imagery of water rushing into my like psyche. Like, I had a mask on, like a black mask over my eyes to not be able to see light, but the image was water would rush across my mind, and then dirt would cover the water, and then hands would bury the dirt, and that was playing in a loop for like an hour. I don't know, that imagery, and it was just like, what is this imagery going? This water and dirt, and then hands.
Wow.
And water and dirt, and then hands burying, and then water and dirt and hands burying.
Wow. And
it felt like it was cleaning my brain, or cleaning my soul, or trying to. And there was a lot more imagery. There was all sorts of things. I could describe it if I sat down and wrote for a while, but it's sort of chaotic if I just explained it right now.
Yeah, and sometimes a lot of that stuff is just for you, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But then after that, I still had really bad withdrawals. Like, as the Ibogaine sort of wore off, the fentanyl withdrawals came back on, and they still lasted for another month or something. So I went to an aftercare after that place, and to like a rehab aftercare after that place, and got sober there, and decided or stayed sober and got feeling better there. And decided from there to move to Mexico with my girlfriend, who had also gotten clean at the time.
The same deal?
Same deal. She went to a different place. Mm-hmm. And then she came to that aftercare where I was. And then we both moved to Mexico after the aftercare. We broke up after about a year down there and in Mexico. And I thought that I was never coming back from Mexico that first time. I thought I was just like... part of my story was going to be I got clean and just ran away from the world and never came back, and definitely never played music again.
Did you just like associate the music with the drugs?
I did, yeah, and I was like super hyper emotional. I was too emotional once without the buffer of drugs. I was too emotional to play music or begin to write or pick up an instrument at all. And I just hated myself too for all the years of using and all the shame and embarrassment. And I just did not want to be I didn't want to be a performing musician anymore. I just wanted no one to know who I was ever again.
Yeah.
Even though I was sober, and people don't talk about that a lot, about after. When you get sober, it's just the beginning of like, now you have to face yourself.
All the stuff you've been avoiding the whole time is still there.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And plus, and then you've done a bunch of crazy shit, like in the years that you're using, that you're like remembering slowly, or like remembering each person that you've like embarrassed yourself or did something shitty to. It's like just this reconciling with just a crazy... It's a crazy reconciliation for a long time after that, and I'm still sort of reconciling with it. But yeah, those initial first couple years after the first time I did Ibogaine were not easy at all, and it was sort of almost like the darkest time. Actually, it's when I was closest to suicide. It's when I was closest to giving up more than when I had given up by doing drugs.
And was it just because you had to face all the stuff that you'd been avoiding before, and the shame and all of that, or was there something else to it? Yeah,
and I just didn't know who I was without the drugs. I didn't think I had no idea what to do, you know? I was sober now, and I had no superpowers anymore. Like, I had such my anxiety was so crippling that I could do nothing but be alone in a room by myself or something, you know. And so what was the point of life? I had no idea.
Yeah.
At some point, I realized that my mom, who was living in Dallas at the time, who has Parkinson's, that she needed help. And I decided, okay, life is supposed to be like an act of service. Like, I had been hearing that term thrown around, that like, okay, life is service, and that's what's a fulfilling life. So I was like, okay, I'll go take care of my mom in Dallas. I was going through the breakup, and I needed someplace to go, and I was having really bad insomnia, crazy insomnia, making me go into like psychosis basically. And so amidst all this chaos, I was like, I'll go take care of my mom, I'll try to get my insomnia under control, and I'll be living an act of service by doing that and not being about me. And I did that. I moved to Dallas and lived with my elderly mom and her boyfriend, who's also elderly and also needs care. So I was basically living with two high needs elderly folks, and just trying to sleep and also just make up for all the years that I'd been missing. And it was just a strange time. So I spent 2 years trying to take care of my mom there in Dallas. But after about a year, my insomnia was still not great. The stress of taking care of my mom with Parkinson's and her dementia was kicking in, being really intense, and I relapsed on kratom. I started taking kratom in Dallas, and not a crazy amount, but enough to become a problem. But it did prevent me from going back to anything worse. And it also helped me sleep. And I don't know if I should say that either to give anybody any motivation to go find kratom. And ultimately, not effective means to take care of an issue.
We've had the kratom talk with a bunch of people on this podcast, and it's basically like, it's not going to make you stop breathing like heroin will, but it certainly can cause problems for some people.
It becomes expensive. It becomes an annoying habit that it's just, you're addicted to something, and there you go again. And
was that the first time that you'd had a craving since the Ibogaine?
I mean, I had cravings, but part of moving to Mexico was to not be able to find it. I mean, it's probably I could, because I could go to a freaking pharmacy and stuff. But I was like, I had motivation in me to not, and I didn't have like a dealer's number in Mexico that I could like get it delivered or something. I don't know. I just thought being in a new environment was going to prevent me from seeking it, and it did. And then also in Dallas, I didn't know anybody to get it, and I was also determined not to go back to what I had been doing.
Yeah.
The kratom started slowly, and then it never got crazy, but it was enough of an issue that I was like, okay, I need to do something about this. And I went and did Ibogaine again. Mm-hmm. And keep in mind, I'm going broke, trying to get myself sober. I completely running out of every dollar I've ever had doing this. But the second time I did Ibogaine, I went to a place in Mexico, and this was six months ago, and because I didn't have the crazy withdrawals to go through, it was 10 times more effective this time. More than that, it changed me in a fundamentally just spiritual. I had a spiritual awakening that I didn't have the first time, I guess, and I feel good to go these days.
Can you talk a little bit more about the difference, or the spiritual awakening, or like what changed?
Okay, so I went there, and even from the kratom, they switched me to opiates. They switched me to short-acting opiates again, to Oxycontin, for just like 4 days or 5 days. And then from there, I did the Ibogaine. You only start to go into a little bit of withdrawal the morning of the Ibogaine. So they don't give it to you the morning of the Oxycontin. So you feel a little withdrawal, you take the Ibogaine, and that experience with the Ibogaine was so mind-blowingly like mystical and effective and emotional, and I don't know what exactly about it did something, but I came out of that experience and immediately started playing music, like immediately needed to express myself, and started writing songs like at a crazy pace, and it just, I don't even know what to say about it. Yeah.
I mean, sometimes you can't describe, so there's like not enough words or not enough like... Yeah. Sometimes something fucking crazy just happens and you're different.
Exactly. I've been writing songs constantly ever since. Like, I'm still trying to capture everything that's changed in me in a moment with that Ibogaine the second time.
That's amazing.
So something really fundamentally had changed that time.
Do you still have cravings now?
No. I completely prefer sobriety now. I have zero urge or want to be fucked up at all. Like, I prefer to be here and present, and I like who I am sober. It's wild.
Yeah, that's amazing. Do you have any other like coping skills that you use? Like, do you go to therapists? Do you have any other like self-care stuff that you do?
I talk to a therapist from Mexico still once a week. I do breath work every day. I exercise every day. I write every day. Just about. I maybe slowed down a little bit the last month, but only because I've been busy basically. But basically I found a way to just get into a rhythm of taking care of my body and also expressing myself creatively again. And it's like that formula is nourishing enough to me to and just enjoy being alive every day.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
What do you see for yourself in your future? I
don't know. That's another thing about sort of the fundamental switch is like I don't have any expectation. Like I'm sort of just grateful for like life has become this play that I'm watching, and I just enjoy the play.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So I'm just following my intuition. I knew I wanted to record the songs the first batch of songs that I wrote. And so I booked studio time and I started recording an album, and slowly people are becoming aware that I'm alive again and playing music, and so it's opening doors. I will say, okay, about this festival that we're at, the Old Friends Reunion, it was a year ago after the first festival that Dana sent me a text asking if I would play this year. And I was addicted to Kratom at the time, and that text was the impetus for me to start like scheming how I was gonna get sober.
Hell
and be
yeah.
like, oh, you know what? I just was so touched that somebody was thinking of me and wanting me to come out and play music again, and someone I really care about, Dana and Noah, that I was like, okay, let's start figuring this out. And that's when I started like talking to a therapist who was like, let's do the Ibogaine maybe. And I was like, okay, yeah, I'll do Ibogaine again. And so it was this festival last year. The timing of it was when it began to change me.
Very cool. Has that like essence of shame left you? Is it still with you?
It still comes up, some shame or some, like, I still remember things that I had forgotten about, and I'm like, oh God, roll my eyes at myself. But it more now lands, like, in my psyche or in my understanding of myself as a way to be compassionate, or as a way to keep my ego in check. It's sort of, I said to somebody, it's the darkness of my past is the gift that keeps on giving, because it just constantly reminds me that I'm certainly no better than anyone else, but also like I have this vast ocean of experience to offer as compassion or understanding to other people.
Totally. Well, if there's nothing else that you wanted to get to, there's two questions that I usually just end with. One is, what do you think people don't understand about addiction?
You know, what people don't understand about addiction is probably the ways that they enable it through certain behaviors, but also another aspect that I've come to understand lately is that life is like unfolding at its own pace. Like, I don't know who's or what's in control of all of our lives, but I've become sort of semi-convinced that it's not us in charge, and that addiction will just is sometimes just a necessary part of someone's spiritual growth in their life, and to not judge a person going through addiction, because it might be exactly what they need to go through to get to the spiritual land that they're eventually going to get to.
Totally.
Does that make sense?
Yes. Yeah, that makes sense to me. I mean, I feel like I fucked up a bunch really bad in my addiction. I hurt a lot of people, and I have regret and guilt and stuff about that, but I wouldn't be in this position where I'm like also helping people with their addictions now if I hadn't gone through it myself. I would be doing something completely different. So that makes absolute perfect sense to me.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you could talk to someone who's like in their darkest days of addiction, what would you say to them?
I would just say, I love you, and everything's unfolding exactly as it's supposed to. And, and yeah, I would just offer non-judgment, some patience, but also, yeah, an encouragement that there's a reason for all of this. And yeah, you're just as valid as anyone else.
All right. Well, thanks for talking today. It's been really nice.
No problem.
they're waiting for me. I can't wait. I've got some friends I will see to show them, yeah, that my lightning is back. I'll get gigs, start putting money away to grow old, 'cause now I'm planning to stay so good, now that my lightning is back.
Recovery Demystified is produced and edited by me, Early Brunner. Stevie Petet made our logo. Our social media manager is Kaylee Bausch. Logan Bragg wrote our beautiful theme music. We are entirely supported by donations as a 501c3 nonprofit. Your tax-deductible donations can be made to our Venmo or to our PayPal at Recovery Demystified. May you be happy and free, dear listener.